Recruiting is now on easy mode, and no, I am not joking, the game has quite literally changed. But the thing is, most families are stuck in 2012. I've been able to play 7 years of professional baseball between the Cardinals and Padres, and also spent 3 years at the D1 level at NC State. Even competed in a World Baseball Classic, and we've helped over 200 players get exposure and get noticed from college coaches. And what we're doing now, it's never been easier to get interest, to get noticed, and to have real conversations with these college baseball coaches, but only if you have a roadmap to actually follow. You're gonna wanna stick until the end, because by the end of this video, I'm gonna share with you on how we can make college baseball recruiting easy again. All right, so let's get started, because recruiting, it's always been this very gate-kept secret. No one can talk about it. No one knows the right things to do. No one knows the strategies or how to communicate with college coaches. Maybe it was just strictly through connections on how your son can actually get in contact with a specific college baseball coach. And I am getting loose, and I haven't taken a full swing yet, so do not judge me on my first couple of swings. And it does look like it's about to rain, so I might have to just hurry up and get some practice in. But more importantly, how in the world is recruiting easy? And sometimes I like to flip things upside down to really be able to understand them. So how can we make recruiting as hard as possible and ensure that we never get in contact with college coaches? Because I think we can all agree, if we never get in contact with college coaches, we're not going to be able to actually get an offer, not get an official visit, a scholarship, etc. So let's talk about the things that we can absolutely do to ensure that we'll never receive a college offer. So first and foremost, if we never go to a camp, we never go to a showcase, we never do any of this, we never reach out to college coaches, that's the way that we can ensure that we never get a scholarship. So that's going to be the way that we can make recruiting incredibly hard. Another area is if we just continuously neglect our physical development. And by physical development, I don't mean playing in more games in the showcase circuit of a bunch of more tournaments, perfect game events. That one looks pretty solid. We're a little bit past. But either way, if we go to a bunch of these camps, these showcases, and we think we're going to be developing our development in the player development side of things. Guys, player development does not mean more swings, more throws. Player development means everything. And skill development is a subsection of that umbrella of development. So think about it like this. The player development is the full circle. Player development is physical development, mental development, making sure that we have that skill development. Understand also the mentality that we need to have when we're practicing, so that way we get the best bang for our buck whenever we are practicing. And I do find it happening a lot where players and parents will neglect this overall player development, or they focus on this tiny little subsector of maybe private lessons, which is, what they think their development is. And I can tell you firsthand, I didn't do private lessons after I think 7th grade, because in all reality, what really matters is the reps that you're taking day after day consistently. And I said something yesterday because I thought it was kind of a cool dream, a cool goal. And as a lot of you guys know, I've been loving golf. Obviously, that's why I'm here practicing and talking to you guys right now. But if, let's just say, I turned pro in golf, how cool would that be? I went from pro baseball to pro golf. But the thing is, it's not about doing work like a madman for one day, like 6 hours. We're just chipping away, we're putting. Yesterday, I think I practiced for 2 hours of golf because I just, have been really enjoying it. But it's not about doing a lot of work in this short sprint. It's about being consistent day after day after day after day through a long period of time. So I was explaining it to my girlfriend. I was like, okay, well, if I literally practice, it's not about practicing 7 hours today, right? Because she was there with me. It was more or less about if I can consistently practice maybe 1 hour a day throughout 15 years, I might actually have a shot of turning pro in golf. And how cool would that be? To turn pro in not only baseball, but also in golf as well. So it's about these little things, these mindsets, making sure that we're actually focusing on the right thing. So again, getting back into it, if we're trying to make recruiting as hard as possible, we're going to be focusing on all of the wrong things. And for example, some of the wrong things, in my opinion, is, are these recruiting dashboards or these recruiting databases that just give you a ton of information, a ton of email addresses, a ton of information, but they never actually like truly show you step by step how to utilize their platform or their database, right? And I don't know if you guys have been able to put the two and two together, but there's plenty of services like that. There are 4-letter services that have probably hit you guys up before, and they hit me up as well when I was in high school, and I just knew better because we never want these college coaches to think poorly of us. And believe it or not, when I went to NC State, I talked to the recruiting coordinator, Chris Hart, and he quite literally mentioned if you use a recruiting service, that tells him directly, or kind of in a way indirectly, that he thinks there's something wrong with you as the player. And is there something necessarily wrong with you? Probably not, right? But that's his first instinct is this family, this player is using a recruiting service, and they think that the recruiting service is going to be the simple solution on how their son can play in college, right? When in reality, it's probably something about the physical development that they need to be addressing. Maybe your son's not throwing hard enough. Maybe your son is 120 pounds as a senior. That's going to be more of a reason on why your son's not going to be able to play college baseball is because he's a $120 as a senior and he maybe is 5'7", right? So we have to be able to see these things for what they truly are. And it was just really enlightening when Coach Hart basically told me that these recruiting services, like it's kind of just a negative connotation as your first impression. And we only get one first impression, guys. So it is important to make it count as much as we can, because those are the first instincts that these college coaches will have on us as players. It's just important that we take care of that. All right, so we went over a couple of ways that we can make recruiting incredibly hard, right? We neglect our physical abilities, we neglect our skill level, our metrics, we're neglecting the mental game, the overall player development. Now, let's talk about how we can make recruiting a little bit easier, because it is going to be always, always, always ultra competitive. It doesn't matter the year. If it's 1980, yes, recruiting, the landscape changed dramatically, especially in the past couple of years, right? The recruiting whiplash and the transfer, tsunami that's been happening, guys, this is really limiting the chances for your son to be able to play college baseball. So let's talk about the couple of ways that we can make recruiting a little bit easier. So visibility is no longer the issue. Clarity is the issue, because there is so much noise in today's age. There's obviously social media. Like I mentioned, there's the recruiting dashboards or databases that they tell you to sign up for, and they're going to promise your son's going to get recruited. There's just simply so much noise in today's age. We have to be careful on who we're listening to. And that's where, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, when I was in high school, I truly opened my ears a little bit wider to the players that have actually gone through the process, have actually played D1 baseball, if not higher. Like myself, like I've been able to play professional baseball. I wanted to listen to someone that's actually been there and done that. And the thing is, there's plenty of like services out there that are just, let's be honest, like huge corporations. Your son's going to be just a number to them, and that's not necessarily the most important thing. What we really should be valuing is more of like that tailored approach, right? The tailored approach on what your son actually needs to be able to reach his goals and his dream. And that's why every single player will come to us at like a different stage in their journey, and they do need different levels of support, right? You can obviously understand like an 8th grader is going to have different support needs and different assistance needs than a senior. Obviously, a senior is going to be a little bit more mentally mature. It is also going to be important to develop the right habits for those seniors, so that way when he is translating to college baseball, he's prepared and ready mentally. But in the same way, 8th graders also need to be focusing on that mentality as well, because there's a lot of failure in the game, right? So there's a lot of correlations, but how we adjust that specific need is important. So if you are interested in working one-on-one with me, go down below in the description. You actually can go ahead and book an eligibility review to see if we're even eligible to work together. For those that are curious, that is the first step in the whole process of potentially working one-on-one with myself. Let's get back to a couple of swings. So like I promised in the beginning of this video, how can we make recruiting easier in this highly competitive environment that is college baseball recruiting? Well, for starters, we should be communicating with these college coaches directly, right? We should not be having mommy or daddy reaching out on behalf of us. We should not be using a database. We should be directly communicating from the player's email, with the initiation coming from the player. Guys, I can't stress this enough. If you are the mom or dad listening to this video right now, and you have to force your son to email college coaches, which is an essential and very critical step in the college recruiting process, who wants it more? Do you want it more, or does your son want it more? Because that's where, like, honestly, like I teach all of my students to be able to be self-reflecting and to be able to look at themselves in the mirror. But let's be honest, in that type of behavior, the parent is very aware of what they want for their son, but sometimes their son isn't aware of what they want. If your son doesn't want it, guys, just don't even waste my time or any of my team's time in booking a call, but like, don't even waste your time watching this video, right? You can log off this video. You don't have to be listening to this whole video because, let's be honest, what I try to put out there is for those serious high school baseball players, so that way they're prepared for college, not only for college, but so that way they're able to have some level of a career potentially in baseball. So guys, look at yourself in the mirror. Who is initiating that contact? Is it you telling your son to communicate with college coaches? And if so, how are you going about that? Is there a strategy beyond? When you are emailing college coaches, do we have a template that we're actually following in a strategic and systematic manner? Are we actually including highlight videos? How is that highlight video or recruiting film edited? Is it long enough? Is it short enough? What angles are these college coaches even looking for? Are we tracking who's opening or clicking or responding to these emails? Guys, these are all the important questions that you really should be asking yourself to see if we even have an edge in today's, again, highly competitive atmosphere. And I get it. There's going to be a lot of just very average baseball players that don't take these steps. They don't listen. They don't take action. And, that's fine. There's going to be a place for very average high school baseball players. The thing is, though, guys, I never wanted to be an average high school baseball player. I didn't want to be an average college baseball player. I didn't want to be an average baseball player in general, right? So there's going to be a place for those average players. And if you don't want to take these steps, more than likely, you will become average, because the quote that I used to live by when I was really in high school, in college, in pro ball, I still live to, this quote still to today. The first time I ever heard it was at a United States Naval Academy camp. It came from the head coach, and he basically said, and he's not the person to necessarily coin the quote, but do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't. And that, can be applied to the physical development, because let's be honest, the physical development takes building blocks, right? If you just think that you're going to work out for, again, like 8 hours in one day, and that's going to be enough, guys, you have to be aware of how this actually works. It compounds, just like compounding interest for the parents that are listening to this video in the banks. Like, compounding interest means like you have to do a little bit and you have to chip, quite literally, away, as I'm chipping, you have to chip away day after day consistently over a long period of time to be able to build these habits and to be able to build that foundation. When building a building, there's usually a good, let's just say for easy numbers, it takes 10 months to build a building. Usually like 6 or 7 months, the team, the construction crew, they're focusing on building the right foundation, right? Because if we're trying to build this really tall pyramid or this really tall building, we want a really strong and wide and very concrete foundation. So again, that foundation can be applied to the physical development. Yes, the foundation can be applied to, actually reaching out to college coaches the right way and making sure that we're going about that in a strategic manner and following ultimately a plan and taking action. I know a lot of people watching this video right now are not going to be the ones who take action, and that's, again, like I mentioned, completely fine with me, because I know that there's a place for average high school baseball players. Now, if you're interested, again, working one-on-one with me, and you have that edge not only on the physical development, the mental development, the player development, the physical development, the skill development, guys, if that interests you in the slightest, go down below in the description to book a call with either myself or one of my team members today.